Welcome back to Naptime Sports Talk Podcast. Thank you for tuning in to our latest episode. Enjoy the show. Welcome back to Naptime Sports Talk Podcast. On today's episode, I'm going to be going over my top 64 prospects for the NFL Draft. I've been compiling this list for a very long time now, and here's my final 64. Before I get started here, it's Thursday, April 16th. We're a week out from the NFL Draft, from round one. I'm very excited to see what happens and to get this draft kicked off and ready to go. So just kind of completed my final mock. I'm not sure if I'm going to have that come out in this episode or I'll go over that another time, maybe next week as we're getting closer to the NFL Draft. But I guess before I get started too, just wanted to say, exciting times for Minnesota sports. We have the Timberwolves playing in round one here starting on Saturday versus the Denver Nuggets. And then we'll have the Minnesota Wild starting off their playoff series versus the Dallas Stars. So looking forward to the playoffs. Hopefully the Wild and the Wolves can go on runs here and they can give us a lot of exciting basketball and hockey to watch. So let's get started on this top 64. So I'll start off, number one. If you've been listening to the podcast for a while, been following the draft coverage that I've been doing, you'll know where I'm going with this pick or with my ranking number one. In my mind, there's four blue chip players in this draft. And after that, there's some really solid guys that could be good starters. But overall, this first round is a little bare from what we've seen in the past. There's not a lot of, there's not like a generational type tackle, generational type edge player, but there's gonna be some good guys here. And then a lot of these positions of the blue bloods here, blue chips, are players that aren't at premium positions. So like what I mean is like they're not edge rushers, they're not offensive tackles, cornerbacks, wide receivers. Really those position groups where you can see get taken a lot higher in the draft because of the positional value. So I think this draft is going to be a lot different this year as we don't have a lot of those types of players. So it's going to be interesting to see how teams value players overall in round one. And I think round one's going to be very hard to predict this year just because I think there's going to be a good tier of players within the top 50 that teams are going to have different rankings on and different consensuses on. So excited to see how this all falls. But yeah, let's get started here now. So my number one player is Jeremiah Love, running back out of Notre Dame. A unicorn type prospect, 4.36 speed and receiving traits, considerable to Saquon Barkley. To me, he reminds me more of Jahmyr Gibbs. That's my comp for him. You think about Love, he can do it out of the backfield running the football. You can also throw him the football. He's just a playmaker. Put the ball in his hands at any point, he can take it to the house. So excited to see what team he ends up on. But he is my number one player. I think he's the best prospect in this draft. And he's my the first blue chip player that, running back is usually, there's people that don't like taking running backs this high in the draft. We'll see if he goes top 5 right now. The rumors to Tennessee Titans. And number 4, if he does fall to that spot, I can't see him getting past the Commanders at 7. Pairing him up with Jaden Daniels would be very nice. As long as he doesn't make it to 9 to the Chiefs, I don't think the Chiefs are going to take running back anyways. I think they're going to go defense in this draft. Or they could potentially go surprise us and go wide receiver. Jordan Tyson has been a guy that has been recently mocked in some of the experts' mocks, like Mel Kiper. So we'll see if that happens, but I think the Chiefs would be crazy to not go defense after they have a depleted group there. But yeah, my number one overall player in this class is Jeremiah Love, running back out of Notre Dame. So I'm not going to go into crazy depth of all these analysis. Going to try to make this quick, otherwise this episode's going to go very long, and I don't want to put that burden on myself or the listeners listening. So number 2, Caleb Downs is my second overall player out of Ohio State safety. One of the highest IQ players that we've seen coming out in a very long time, especially at that safety position. I think he's generally a generational type safety. And, he's just pro ready. He's been pro ready ever since he's left high school. He went to Alabama, started as a true freshman there at safety. Then after that season, he transferred to Ohio State, where he won the national championship versus my Notre Dame Irish in the 2025 national championship. And like I said, it's like you're getting a coach on the field, guy that could wear that blue or the green dot on his helmet. And he just has the sideline range, put him in the box, line him up deep. He's a special talent. And I think Caleb Downs is going to go a lot higher than people think. Generally would see safeties kind of fall into that top 10 range, but I think he's going top 10 for sure. I can't see him get past Cincinnati at 10, and I think he's going to go a lot higher than that. So we'll see. I don't think he's going to go top 4, maybe 5 to the Giants, but I think potentially there could be a trade, and we'll see if I get to my mock here today. We will see if you can see where he lands in my mock. So it's also out on there right now on TikTok and then also on Instagram. So spoiler alert, but I would go a little more in depth about my analysis on why I picked those players, those positions. All right, my number 3 overall prospect is Fernando Mendoza, quarterback out of Indiana. The Heisman winner, Kiper, calls him the most pro-ready quarterback and processor I've seen the field since Joe Burrow. So it's a pretty heavy comp there to take. But yeah, Fernando Mendoza, special talent, had a tremendous run there with Indiana, transferred from Cal this year, made the right choice because if you go back to the beginning of the season, he was not on any scouts' radar at this point to be going this high. And he's a sure lock at number 1. It's been written in stone forever. One of my best friends, who's a big Raiders fan, actually got his Mendoza jersey customized already, so I think he's going to be wearing that draft night. He's pumped. Raider Nation's excited. This kid's going 1. It's a lock, and I'm excited to see what he does for the Las Vegas Raiders. But he's my number 3 prospect in this class. Number 4 for me is Sonny Styles, linebacker at Ohio State. Just an ultimate chess piece, 6'5", 245, with an elite cover range. This is a guy that I could see him potentially go to number 4 with Tennessee if they decided to not take Jeremiah Love there at number 4. I can see Dallas moving up to get him. Yesterday, actually, I was thinking this over the weekend, and then it came to fruition in Mel Kiper's mock draft here that he released yesterday. It was Dallas trading up to number 6 with Cleveland, as Cleveland wants to get out of that spot at 6 to move back, probably take a tackle, or potentially even take a wide receiver that could potentially fall at that pick. In my mock, I went them trading back and taking the offensive tackle for themselves. I'm not going to spoil who that was, but yeah, I can see, the big one here is Dallas. I think Dallas wants one of these top 2 guys. I think Caleb Downs, Sonny Styles is going to be there if they do trade up at 6 with the Cleveland Browns. So I'm excited to see what they do. They have, pick 12 and pick 20 in this class where they could package that up to move up that high. So I think that would be a good trade for the Cleveland Browns, who need just a lot of different areas of needs. They would actually end up having, I think, 3 first-round picks. Then, if they did that trade, they would have 12 from Dallas, 20 from Dallas, and then they also have pick 24. So I think that would be a very nice trade for them to do. So I'm excited to see if that happens. And but yeah, Sonny Styles, my number 4 player, special talent out of Ohio State, one of the most athletic linebackers that we've seen coming out. And just those numbers that he put up at the combine, go check them out. It was just an absolute freak. Another point there too is if Dallas does elect him, get up to number 6, and he does somehow get the 6. Technically, I don't think he's getting past the Giants at 5. I think they're going to take him there. But his dad played for the Dallas Cowboys, so that'd be kind of a cool fit for them. All right, number 5, David Bailey, Texas Tech edge rusher. I think he's a top edge rusher in this class with the total package put together right now. People might have Arvell Reese right there ahead of him, but I overall think that David Bailey right now is a better prospect. Arvell Reese has the more potential. So he led the nation in pressures, and he put up good numbers at the combine too. Like I said, I'm not going to go over all that, but go and check that out for yourself. Number 6 is Arvell Reese, Ohio State. You know, he mostly played linebacker at Ohio State, and last year they started transitioning him to edge in the Matt Patricia defense. This is a kid that's a question mark. I think David Bailey is going to go 2 to the Jets. There was just news yesterday that came out saying that the Jets canceled his top 30 visit. People are like, well, does that mean they're not going to pick him? It could be. It could be that they already have their mind made up on him and they want to have more players come in that they're not so sure of in their top 30 visits. But yeah, I think David Bailey's going to go 2 to the Jets, and then Arvell Reese is going to go 3 to the Cardinals. But yeah, you know, he's just the biggest question mark in this draft, but he has the traits, and I think he has the higher upside than David Bailey, but David Bailey is the more surefire prospect right now. You know what we're getting from him, where Arvell Reese is just the question mark right now. Athletic, very athletic, but, you know, Rick Spielman there in New York helping out there now. I think he's going to go David Bailey and take the sure thing overall versus a question mark at that position. So, especially when you're picking that high. And the Jets they're an interesting team. They have a lot of picks next year. They have 3 in the first round in that historic coming class. They have pick 16 here, and then, you know, pick 2, and they have, I think, 33 right away in the second round. And they have another second round pick, if not another one. But yeah, they have a lot of picks in this top 100, top 50. So it's gonna be exciting to see what the Jets can put together here for themselves. All right, number 7 is Carnell Tate for me, wide receiver at Ohio State. I think he's the most polished route runner in this class. He's my receiver number 1. You know, he's great at the contested catches and making plays down the field, jump balls, things like that. So I like him a lot. He's going to be going in my top 10 in this class too. My mock, I think I had Washington taking him at number 7. If the Browns don't trade out of 6, I could see him go there too. So I think he's going to be a lock for the top 10. The next one's Ruben Bain. He's my 8th prospect, edge rusher to Miami. Just if you go back and watch the playoff, he was just overpowering guys. I think it was Ohio State game. He just kept sending that right tackle back and back and back. He's got an incredible bend on the outside as an edge rusher. Some people might think that he could be moving into 3 technique at D tackle and be an inside rusher. So he's a nice little piece to have. Put him on the outside, put him in the interior. The one knock on him, he's going to have historically short arms. You know, like this guy can't reach the top shelf in his kitchen. Like that's how short these arms are. So usually you want edge rushers with long arms because these offensive tackles now are huge dudes. We're talking about guys that are like 6'6", 6'5", 6'7", 6'4" average, right? Long wingspans, long arms. The thing is, he has to get his hands on those guys first because if they get their grasp on him, it's going to be hard for him at this next level getting off blocks. And you think about Ruben Bain, one thing he does very well is he gets lower than the tackle and uses his bend and quickness and power to overpower guys. But that's the one concern I have with him is what those short arms are going to do. But yeah, I think overall, if he had like his arms a couple inches longer, he's going to for sure top 5 pick. Like just incredible power. And what he was able to do for Miami in that playoff run was spectacular. And talk about a guy who plays a lot of football on the field. He doesn't take too many plays off. So, you know, we'll see what they do. He kind of reminds me a little bit of Jared Verse, who came out from Florida State, power rusher type like that. So I like Ruben Bain, junior, my number 8 overall prospect in this class. Number 9 for me is Vega Ioane out of Penn State, offensive guard. I just think he's the best interior blocker in this class at guard. elite road grader, great personality, great character kid. I saw this video. Penn State was after a game, and the equipment manager was struggling getting all their stuff up the ramp. And he goes, all these other players are walking by. This kid stops. He goes over there and he helps push the cart up the ramp here to help his guy out. So just talk about a great human being. Whoever gets this kid's gonna get a stud. I like him a lot. I have him just slightly graded higher than the top tackle, who's my next pick here at number 10 is Francis Mauigoa, offense tackle in Miami. I think he's going to be moving inside to guard, but say if you play him at guard right now for a team that might have a right tackle, you could slide him back to right tackle, but I think he could be a Pro Bowl level guard here. Massive, 330 pounds. He's got quick feet. You see what he can do in the run game. He's going to be a really nice pick, and he's my consensus offense tackle number 1, but I'm not going to be surprised if a team decides to move him on the inside at guard. Number 11 for me is Makai Lemon out of USC, wide receiver. Just a slot king, contested catches, one of the highest in this class. Elite body control and football IQ. To me, he reminds me of Jackson Smith-Njigba. He really does. Some people might say 11's too high, but I like this kid a lot. Just toughness, and he's going to go take a shot. He's not afraid to go up over the middle of the field and get hit. So I like this kid a lot. Makai Lemon out of USC. I saw a lot of his games, over the past couple of years too, watching USC football, and also the Notre Dame, when they played Notre Dame, he killed us a couple times, but we ended up winning both those games. But he's a really nice prospect. I can see him get to anywhere in this range. Miami at 11 could be a strong spot for him as they need wide receiver help. It was funny because I did a mock earlier before free agency, and I had him taking Miami. I had Miami picking him at 11, and someone's like, well, why would they pick him? They already have Jalen Waddle. They already have Tyreek Hill. But hey, guess what? Look at now, we're in April, and both those players are not on the roster anymore. So would not be surprised if Makai Lemon's a pick there. I could also see maybe Jordan Tyson, who's my next prospect here at number 12. But going back to Lemon, I don't think he gets past the Rams if he's on the board. I think he's going the 14 to the Rams, especially if he's not picked higher. So my pick number 12 is Jordan Tyson, wide receiver at Arizona State. He's a big question mark in this class too. If you watch his tape, he arguably could be wide receiver 1 for me. My knock on him is his inability to stay healthy. So, he had a knee injury, then he had a hamstring or a broken collarbone last year in the playoff run for Arizona State, and then he had a hamstring injury this year. So he has all this injury history, but he's a true X wide receiver and a premier deep threat in this class. Get the ball in his hands, he's a playmaker. So I do like that from him. The only knock on him is injury history, which scares me a little bit. So that's why he is not my wide receiver 2. That's why I have Makai Lemon, who's shown that complete toughness over the time. Mel Kiper, if I was talking to him right now, he'd probably laugh in my face saying he's not tough because he's saying, well, he is tough. And they actually had the keep him from hurting himself. And that's why they held him out. He would have probably played through that hamstring injury, which he did. And then he ended up hurting his other hamstring actually. So, but yeah, I like Jordan Tyson. He's got the skills. His brother is actually a NBA basketball player too, so got that athletic pedigree in his family. Going on to number 13, I have Mansour Delane, cornerback out of LSU. One of the smartest cornerbacks in this class. He can line up and play man. He can line up and do zone. Just a high IQ player. And yeah, he transferred over from Virginia Tech to LSU this past season. So Mansour Delane's my 13th prospect. I actually have him at 10 to Cincinnati Bengals, my mock, but I can see him go to the Chiefs at number 9. Someone was telling me the other day when I released my mock that I had Ruben Bain falling there to number 10 to the Bengals, and someone said that they would not see Ruben Bain get passed on by the Chiefs. So I think that's good intel there. I went back and was doing a little more dive in the research. And, the Chiefs do have a depleted cornerback room, but they do have guys there. But they do need to find a edge rusher, the pair of Karl Loftus there on the opposite edge. So if Ruben Bain does go to 9, the Chiefs, that could be highly likely, especially how they've had him in for top 30. They've been doing a lot of homework on him as well. So, but yeah, so I could see Mansour Delane. I think, 10 is probably his floor with, I would see him going to the Cincinnati Bengals there at 10. So, number 14th prospect is Jermod McCoy, Tennessee cornerback, former wide receiver. He has elite ball tracking and vertical recovery. The one thing with him, he didn't play last year because he had that knee injury, tore up his knee, his ACL, I think his MCL. So that's my one concern with him. I think he's potentially going to fall in this draft just because teams don't, they've been doing the research on him now. He didn't play last year, but if you go back to 2024 tape, he's the number one cornerback in this class. So that's why I have Delane and McCoy right neck and neck. But as we've seen in the past, look at last year with Will Johnson, fell all the way to round 2 to the Arizona Cardinals. So I think that I'm not going to say McCoy is going to fall around 2 just because the overall depth of this class, in the first round, but I think he's going to go first round somewhere, but he might fall at top 15 because of that injury. So this is a guy at 18. If he's there for the Vikes, I'd be surprised. I would be curious to see what the Vikings do at pick 18 if Jermod McCoy is on the board, if they take him. But the guy I think they're going to take, if he doesn't get past the Cowboys at 12, and McCoy could be a guy at 12 too for the Cowboys if they do stick and pick. So we'll see what happens with that. But next pick or next ranking here is number 15. That's Dylan Thieneman, safety out of Oregon. High IQ, center fielder, elite deep zone instincts. He can come up in the box and make plays off the edge. Hey, Vikes, we don't know what's going on with Harrison Smith. This is a kid that, in my mock, if he falls to us, I think the Vikes take him. He's a chess piece. You could line B-Flow would be happy with this pick. You could line him up all over the place, and he's fast. He is a fast guy. Let me go back and look what his 40 was, but I think it was like in the 4.3 range. 4.3, 540, 6 foot, 201, high motor player. I would like that pick for us at 18. But yeah, Dylan Thieneman's my 15th overall prospect in this class. So we'll see if he makes it 18. Like I said, I could see him go all the way to number 12 if the Cowboys do decide to stick and pick. My next prospect is number 16 is Spencer Fano, offense tackle to Utah. Right tackle in this class, technical master, best pure pass protector. I do wonder if a team will kick him in the guard, but you could either take him, kick him in the guard, or he's be lined up at the right tackle. I don't think he's be left tackle. Same thing with Mauioa. He's a right tackle. These two in this class, there's not that surefire left tackle. We'll get to some prospects here that have a little more question marks. The left tackle, but yeah, Spencer Fano, 16th player for me. But someone's just gonna need a solid player. I think he'd a day one starter on your team. Number 17, Kenyon Sadiq, tight end out of Oregon. A matchup nightmare, wide receiver speed. So this is a kid that I'm intrigued to see where he goes. Like, I think about Kenyon Sadiq. He is a big tight end, fast. You don't always see tight ends run this fast. So I'm going to check out his 40 time right here. Yeah, so 4.3940 he ran, 6'3", 241. I like him a lot. I would not be shocked if he fell to 18. If he falls 18, I would have a hard time seeing KOC pass him up just because we have Hawk under that 1-year contract right now. But the thing with Sadiq, he's going to be lining more up in the slot. He's not a really great inline blocker or nothing like that. So we'll see what happens. I actually had Baltimore taking him just because I think he kind of would fill that Isaiah Likely role a little bit for them since he left, and I think he went to the New York Giants. But yeah, Kenyon Sadiq's my 17th overall prospect, tight end out of Oregon. Number 18 is Emmanuel McNeil Warren, safety out of Toledo. Ball hawk, elite range, high interception production. Again, if Dylan Thieneman's gone at 18, I think Emmanuel McNeil Warren could potentially be there at the 18th pick for the Vikes too, and that's been actually mocked in some drafts as well. So looking at the experts drafts, I think Peter Schrager, he has had a recent podcast episode come out on YouTube where they had Rand Carthon, the former Tennessee Titans general manager. Seemed like a really cool dude too. Ran bummed out that didn't work for him in Tennessee. And then they had Dane Bugler of the Athletic. Dane Bugler is just crazy, like draft nuts. He has a thing called The Beast. Check it out. It's on the Athletic. I think it's a free resource if you don't have Athletic subscription, because I don't have Athletic subscription, and I was able to still check it out. But this guy went over 200 or 2,700 prospects he has analysis for. Like, that's just insane. Like, he goes in-depth analysis on each player. So check him out. It's a cool resource to check out, especially on the draft. If you're like me, I like to watch all 7 rounds. So, you know, you hear of some of these players in round 6 to 7 that are kind of more, you know, guys you just don't really hear during this process because there's so many prospects and you can't get to everyone. But unless you're Dane Bugler, I guess. And then Field Yates was on that too. So they had an interesting mock there. Yeah, so Peter Schrager had Emmanuel, McNeil, Warren, and those guys were doing what they think would happen too, not what they would do based on their intel of what they've been hearing. So we'll see. You know, my biggest question mark with the Vikes at 18 is, does Harrison Smith come back? Because we have other glaring needs too, like defensive tackle, big one. But yeah, I'm not going to get in full depth on that right now. I'm going to keep rolling on this prospect list. Number 19 is Caden Proctor, offensive tackle at Alabama. He was at 390 pounds in the offseason last year, and he got cut down, I think, like 350, 360-ish. So that's I think a big concern is if he's able to maintain his weight. But yeah, to me, he's the best left tackle in this class. Just a giant. And I keep thinking Detroit Lions there, but now there's rumors that the Browns really like him. And if they do trade out of that 6th pick with, say, Dallas or someone else, they would probably take him in the top 15 after the top 10 there. So Caden Proctor, look for him in this class. Number 20, Monroe Freeling, Georgia offensive tackle, another left tackle. 6'7" frame, high ceiling, developmental left tackle. Like I said, you're taking him more as a developmental type kid. He hasn't had a lot of starting experience, but he's got the physical traits of a left tackle. Number 21 for me is Omar Cooper Jr., wide receiver out of Indiana. Just a yak specialist after the catch, breaks tackles like a running back in space. I have him going all the way to number 16 to the Jets. I've also seen him go number 14 to the Rams. So this is a kid to watch out for on draft night. But yeah, just a tough SOB there at the wide receiver position. My number 22 player is Blake Miller, offensive tackle at Clemson. He's only missed 1 practice in his entire career at Clemson. So he's a high floor right tackle with 50-plus starts in battle tested. So a guy that's not injured very oftenly. So I think Blake Miller's going to go in round 1. So I have him at 22. These aren't my picks too, by the way. I'm not saying he's going to go 22. This is my 22nd ranked player in this class. Number 23 for me is Akeem Mesidor out of Miami, edge rusher. The one knock on him to me is his age. So he's 25 years old already. But if you're talking about him as a pass rusher, he is some great trades. So I think he's probably going to go to a player or a team that has more, like, is not expecting him to be like a long-term developmental type prospect. He's plug and play already, like, you know, in some kind of rotation. If you need him to start, I think he can do that for you. But what I'm trying to get at is I think he's going to go to a team that is ready to win now. Like, you don't have all this time on him. You got like 5-6 years of his prime, most likely. So, you know, so we'll see what happens with him. Where will he fall because of that age? If you take the age out, he's like 21, 22. This kid's probably going top 10, honestly. So, my number 24 prospect is Casey Concepcion, wide receiver at Texas A&M, creative playmaker, threat on, you know, on jets and screen types plays. Just get the ball in his hands, let him go to work. He can also return punts, kick returns as well. So, yeah, I like Casey Concepcion. And if you ever seen the ESPN coverage of him with Texas A&M, I guess he's a phenomenal cooker too. So he would always have his teammates over to watch game film, and he would cook for them. Number 25 is Peter Woods, defense tackle at Clemson. A powerful 3 technique with elite first step twitch. You know, he's kind of got shorter arms too on the interior there, But kid's got a lot of potential. If you talk about last year's tape, and if he would have, say if his last year's tape was this past year, he would be a top 10 pick, Peter Woods. So he's fallen. Clemson had a historically bad season last year. If you looked at mocks at the beginning of the season, he was going high in the top 5 consistently. My number 25 prospect is Colton Hood, cornerback out of Tennessee. Physical press man specialist, just a lead at the line. I like him a lot. I'm going to try to rattle through these real quick as my little youngest daughter is starting to wake up from her nap. So I want to try to get through this as quick as I can. Number 26 for me is Keldrick Falk, edge out of Auburn, 6'6" frame, wins with length and leverage. Doesn't have this whole pass rush pedigree out there yet, but one of the better run defenders in this class at the edge position. So we'll see what he does. He's 20 years old. I think he's going to go a team that can develop him longer. Would not be opposed if the Vikes took him. And, he's 6'6". He's got a big frame. So if he could put on a little more weight, he could maybe play 3-4 D end. I'm saying that he's going to be not one of the outside linebacker or outside rushers, but more one guy hand in the dirt there on the edge. So I could see that happen if they were going to go edge, or if they were going to go D-line. Keldrick Falk could be a guy that they look at. Number 27 is Denzel Boston, a Washington wide receiver, just a big body wide receiver. Look for him in the red zone. Specialist in high pointing footballs, 6'4", so big body wide receiver there out of Washington. Number 28 is Caden McDonald, defensive tackle at Ohio State. Interior disruptor, lives in the opponent's backfield. He is one of the better run stuffers in this class. I would not be surprised if he's a pick there at 18 for the Vikes. But to me, I think pick 18 is a little high for him. So if that was a situation or scenario, if they want him, I would hope that we'd maybe trade back in that early 20 range, just because I think the Chicago Bears will not pass on him potentially at 25. So we'll see what happens with that. Number 29 for me is D'Angelo Pons, Indiana cornerback. Just one of my favorite cornerbacks in this class. Just a football player. What he was able to do during the national championship run. He was just a very exciting prospect to watch, and I like Pons a lot there out of Indiana. D'Angelo Pons, my number 29th prospect in this class. Number 30 for me is C.J. Allen, linebacker out of Georgia. Just a field general, elite play recognition. So you look at mocks before, he was going in the first round, but I think he's kind of going to fall out of that first round range now. Number 31 for me is Cassius Howell, edge rusher out of Texas A&M. He's more of a speed type defensive end. We'll see if he makes it to round 1, but I think he's going to end up falling to round 2. So like I said, there's a lot of guys here that that we just don't know where he's going to go. So, all right, my 32nd prospect is Avion Terrell, cornerback out of Clemson. Younger brother of A.J. Terrell, who plays corner for Atlanta Falcons. He has tremendous quickness and instincts. He can line him up. I think he's probably be more like a nickel corner here at the next level. Number 33 for me is Caleb Lamu, offensive tackle at Utah. Left tackle, athletic pull and tackle, perfect for wide zone schemes for the run game and blocking schemes. I think he's probably going to be more better suited off kicking into guard. But Caleb Lamu, offensive tackle, is my 33rd overall prospect. Number 34 is probably one of my most enticing prospects in this class, just because he hasn't been playing football for a very long time. He's been playing football for about 5 years now. And he actually was born in Nigeria and came over with his parents. So he hasn't been, like I said, playing football for a very long time. That's Max Ianachor, offensive tackle at Arizona State. But just an athletic freak, has potential massive upside. I think he's going to go in the round 1 for sure. I just can't see him getting past like New England if they wanted him, but I think he's going to go a lot higher than that. In my mock, I actually had the Philadelphia Eagles taking him at 34. Number 35 for me is Zion Young, edge rusher out of Missouri. Just a power rusher with excellent length. This is a kid that we're seeing mocked now in the first round consistently. So yeah, this is the range where we see a lot of these players. They could go round 1, or they could go round 2. So we'll see what happens with that. But yeah, Zion Young is my 35 overall player. And so if you hear any little like hitting the mic, I have my little daughter in my arms right now. She actually woke up from her nap, so I'm just trying to power through this with her, but she's really chill. So, Peyton, can you say hi to the listeners? Oh, you're quiet like always. All right, here we go. Number 36 I got is TJ Parker, edge rusher out of Clemson. High motor, excels at starting or setting the point of attack. So there's another kid that, if you look back the last, earlier in the season, he was consistently going round 1. I still think he has a good shot at going round 1, but for me, he's pick number 36 for me. Or he's not pick number 36. He's rated number 36 for me. Number 37 is Lee Hunter, defensive tackle out of Texas Tech. Pocket pusher, forces quarterbacks to scramble. Talk about a kid that will collapse the pocket. In the pass game, he's also really stout in the run. So Lee Hunter is my 37th overall player, and I know my buddy Zach would love for the Raiders to get him in the second round, and they're actually picking, I think, at pick 36. So this is kind of that range too for him, but would not be shocked if a team loves him so much that they get him in round 1, especially late in round 1 to middle in round 1. My number 38th player is Chris Bell, wide receiver of Louisville. Contested catch specialist, elite hand strength. One thing with him, he doesn't have like a full pedigree for routes, but he's got a tremendous upside. He had an injury this past season too. I think he had ACL injury, so we'll see what happens with him with that. But Chris Bell, he's a very enticing prospect. And yeah, we'll see where he ends up. Just going back. So 6'2", 227, ran a 4.4 40 or 4.4 440. But like I said, he's coming off an injury. So, and I'm pretty sure he tore up his knee. Don't quote me on that, but I think I do think he had a knee injury there. So, let's see here. Let's go back to my thing. So number 39 for me is Caleb Banks, defensive tackle out of Florida. Just huge interior defensive tackle, 320 with rare lateral agility for his size. The thing is, I would have Caleb Banks rated a lot higher, but he just can't stay on the field. So that's one thing that scares me about him, is his inability to stay on the field. And I just don't know if he's going to end up, going in round 1 because of that problem. But number 40 for me is Christian Miller. I'm chuckling because I keep getting pulled here on my sweatshirt and on my cord for my headphones. So she's a little fun. She's a funny little girl. Number 40 for me is Christian Miller, defense tackle at Georgia. Heavy-handed run stuffer, collapses the pocket. Look for him. Number 41, Ty Simpson, quarterback at Alabama. So I have Simpson rated in the second round. I think his ceiling, or not ceiling, but the floor where he's going to go is probably somewhere in round 2. I think he can go as high as in the late first round if a team wants to move up for him. Say the Arizona Cardinals are picking at 34, and the Jets are picking at 33. So I could see the Cards move back in. I don't think the Seahawks at 32 are going to trade in the division though. But maybe pick anywhere from 29 with KC, 30 with Miami, 31 with New England. I think we could see that as a potential for them if they want to get that 5th-year option on the quarterback. So I have Ty Simpson at 41. Number 42 is R. Mason Thomas, Oklahoma edge rusher, rising fast up draft boards. He's been just continuing the rise with his draft process. Very dominant at the Senior Bowl. So, number 43 for me is Gabe Jacobs, edge rusher at Illinois. 3-4 outside linebacker, prototype, powerful, long. I think he's going to be a nice little edge rusher piece here. We'll see if if he makes it in the round one, but I know in whose mock was it? That Peter Schrager mock where they had the 4 guys going through it together. R. Mason Thomas did make it into mid round 1, so we'll see what happens. Number 44 for me is Anthony Hill Jr., linebacker out of Texas, sideline to sideline speed, elite chase linebacker. You talk about a kid that, if you're talking about earlier in this class too, he was consistently going into round 1 as well. Hold on a sec. I'm going to take off my headphones. All right, the next prospect here is at number 45, Jadarian Price, running back out of Notre Dame. So, you talk about Jadarian Price. I think Seattle, there's a serious potential that he's going to get taken at number 32 to the Seahawks. They just lost Kenneth Walker to the Chiefs. He's a plug-and-play running back. Zach Charbonneau got hurt too in the playoffs later on. So this would be a very nice pick for the Seahawks. He would fit that scheme perfectly for what they want to do. And, yeah, look for his Jadarian Price to make it into the first round at pick number 32 if Seattle does, in fact, stay there. So number 46 is Brandon Cease, cornerback out of South Carolina. Very, he's got track speed. He's rarely beat deep in man coverage. And, if he does get beat, he has that speed to make it up. Number 47 for me is Malachi Lawrence, edge rusher out of UCF. Dynamic talent, one of the better pass rushers in this draft. But we'll see. This is a kid that there was a bet a couple weeks back, I think 2-3 weeks ago. I've been betting on this Kalshi app, it's called. And I made a bet for him not going into round 1. So now we're seeing that, all the draft odds of that app potentially happening. So I'm sweating this one out, though. As of right now, I still have likelihood of him not going in the round 1. I think at the end of the day, he's probably not going to make it there. But we'll see. This kid that the scouts might like a little, NFL might like a little better than some other guys like myself or just kind of media scouts. But yeah, I think he's probably going to end up going round 2 if, putting my money on it. So number 48 for me is Chris Johnson out of San Diego State University, cornerback. Combine standout, 4.32 speed and fluid hips. So another kid that is getting rated a lot higher. I'm just kind of not as high on him, but I could see why people would have him in their top 32. And we'll see if he makes it to round 1. This is another kid that potentially could make it into round 1. But we'll see what happens. Number 49 for me is Jeremy Bernard, Alabama wide receiver. Prototypical SEC, extra reliable and physical. He's not going to be this huge electric playmaker, but a kid that, just keeps on moving the chains, get him the ball, and he can make plays. So I like him. We'll see where he ends up here. Number 50 for me is Zachariah Branch, wide receiver of Georgia. He can return the football, and he's just a human type joystick. I like him a lot. I'm excited to see where he ends up. He actually was out of Bishop Gorman High School in Vegas there. So Zachariah Branch, we'll see. Maybe the Raiders take a pick on him. They need wide receiver help, and he'd be a nice little fit for them. And I think his uncle was Cliff Branch, I believe. I'll have to look this up. But yeah, I think Cliff Branch was his uncle. Yep, Cliff Branch, and he played for the Raiders. So that'd be kind of a cool little pick for them as his uncle played there for the Raiders. Let's see here. Back to my list here. Number 51 is AJ Halsey, safety out of LSU. In the enforcer type safety in this class, elite open field tackler. If the Vikes do not take safety in round 1, I could see them go this kid in round 2 if he's there for us when we pick at pick 49, I believe we're at. Let me double check that though. Yeah, pick 49. So I could see the Vikes taking him in round 2. So I've actually been taking him a lot in different sims in round 2. If I go with a different option there in the first round than Thieneman or Emmanuel McNeil Warren. So number 52 for me is Elijah Surratt, wide receiver, Indiana. Security blanket, lead hands, runs nice routes. I like him. He kind of reminds me a little bit of Keenan Allen a little bit. And I don't know if he was going to be as good as Keenan Allen, but he just kind of looks like him a little bit and kind of reminds me of him a little bit. Number 53 for me is Emmanuel Pregnon, Oregon, inside interior of the offensive line. He'll be playing guard. You watch him, he's just a very physical run defender. He's a little on the older side. I think he's like 25 or so. I'm going to look that up exactly. Let's see. What was his age? Yeah, he's 24 and a half years old right now. So, yeah, he's a little on the older side, but I think he could be a plug-and-play guard for someone. Number 54 for me is Jacob Rodriguez, linebacker at Texas Tech. Tactical leader, elite. He is elite awareness and play recognition. A lot of interceptions last year. Has that peanut punch, too. And he actually he's got a pretty incredible story. If you've never heard of him before, look him up. He actually came a long way. He started as a quarterback, played I think he played junior college, and he got switched to linebacker eventually. And he really made a name for himself here this past season. Number 55 for me is Keelan Rutledge, offensive lineman out of Georgia Tech, interior guard. Excellent size and length, great awareness on the run game, very physical. Number 56 for me is Keontae Scott, cornerback out of Miami. Versatility, he can play boundary, nickel, or even potentially put him back at safety. So he's an intriguing prospect as well. Number 47 for me is Malachi Fields, wide receiver at Notre Dame. Physical, he can play in the slot, elite third down safety valve, get him in the red zone. He's got a big frame, 6'4". I'm excited to see what he does. He transferred over from Virginia this past season for Notre Dame, so we kind of got to get to know him a little bit more during this season, but he's a tremendous football player. So whoever gets Malachi is going to get a nice football player, and he seems like a really good kid too. So next on my list here is Jake Galladay, linebacker to Cincinnati at 58. High ceiling athlete, excels in pass coverage. He could be like a Swersinger type player that he is just a phenomenal football player. So we'll see what happens with where Galladay goes, but he's my number 58th ranked player. Keith Abney is number 59 for me, cornerback out of Arizona State. Sticky man corner with elite recovery speed. He's a pretty physical cornerback too. I like Abney a lot. This is a kid that I would potentially even think about the Vikes taking here in the second round if he's there. Number 60 for me is Antonio Williams, wide receiver of Clemson. This is a reliable chain mover, lead hands, and run IQ. So I like Antonio Williams. If you go back to the beginning of the season, he would have been mocked in the first round. And like I said, Clemson had a very just historically bad year, so a lot of these guys are dropping because of that. But yeah, I think he's be a solid wide receiver at the next level. What's going on? Number 61 is Josiah Trotter, linebacker out of Missouri. Just physical legacy prospect, the son of Jeremiah Trotter. He has elite toughness. But yeah, I like Josiah Trotter there out of Missouri. A number 62 prospect is Eli Stowers, tight end of Vanderbilt. Just elite athleticism, and he has a great ability of reading coverage, finding open zones, finding open areas of the field. He's going to be more of that slot type tight end. He needs to work on his run blocking a little more. But yeah, he'd be a nice prospect there for someone that's looking, for more like a pass catching tight end. Number 63 for me is Traydon Stukes, cornerback out of Arizona. High IQ zone corner who has ability to pick or create turnovers by intercepting the ball. He's got elite type speed. I think he's ran in the 4.3s. So that's a nice, intriguing prospect there. Traydon Stukes out of Arizona. Just going back to double check to what his 40 time was there, but I believe it was in the 4.3s. Let's see here. Stukes. Yeah, so 4.33, 6'1", 190. So yeah, he'd be a nice prospect there. Could be a guy in round 2 for the Vikes too, so we'll see what happens. Number 64 for me is Jennings Dunker, offensive tackle to Iowa. I think he's going to probably move inside. Look him up on TikTok. He's got some funny interviews, but just a very physical offensive lineman. He's got just like this little edge to him. So I really like him a lot. And yeah, he's my 64th overall prospect in this class. All right. Well, I think Payne's ready for this to be over too. So that's my top 64 rankings. Thanks for listening today. Payne, you got anything to say to everyone? What do we say here? No pack, no. Boo Bears. And lose lines. All right, Skull Vikes. You want to end this, Payton? Go tap the mic? Okay. Like always, straight cash only. Thank you for listening to our episode. Be sure to give us a follow on Instagram and X at Naptime Sports Talk Podcast for content related to the pod. Thank you for the support.